The narrative starts with a young boy named Cameron Cade attending the San Antonio Saviors football championship match. Cam was present to cheer on the Saviors quarterback, Isaiah White. The team ultimately emerged victorious in the championship, but Cam's happiness soon became sorrow because during the game-winning play, Isaiah sustained an injury that looked potentially career-ending. Cam's father explained to him, "This is the action of true men, they accept sacrifices." Cam's dad desired for him to be the next Isaiah. Consequently, over the following 14 years, Isaiah White kept playing for the Saviors, having recovered from that wound. He secured 8 championships while on the team. However, currently, no one was certain if Isaiah could compete next season or if retirement was his choice. The focus then moved to Cameron Cade, the person who might be the successor to Isaiah White. Everybody was already aware of Cam's talent. People universally thought he would take Isaiah's place, though Cam's father was no longer living. His encouragement was provided by his mother, girlfriend, and his brother. Cam's subsequent objective was to achieve GOAT status. Yet during a late-night training session, an unknown individual in a goat mask assaulted him. Cam weathered the assault, but his professional future was suddenly at risk. Should he sustain a similar injury during a football game, his career would conclude. The physician recommended that he cease playing football. Simultaneously, however, the annual football combine event was beginning. Everybody anticipated that Cam would be selected as the top pick in the upcoming draft. Cam visited a barber for a trim prior to appearing before the media. His agent, Tom, arrived to offer encouragement, but his mother questioned if he was genuinely prepared. A disagreement erupted involving Cam's mother and his brother, Drew. Cam's mother refused to disregard the seriousness of his injury. Numerous thoughts were occupying Cam's thoughts during this period. While getting his hair cut, his stitches were aggravated. Nevertheless, Cam insisted, "I am all right." He had dedicated his entire life to reaching this moment, yet, despite his desire, Cam was unable to take part in the combine. Consequently, reporters questioned Cam's agent Tom, who also represented Isaiah, if Cam was set to replace Isaiah. Was Isaiah planning to retire? Tom avoided responding to their inquiries. Later that night, while wandering despondently at a party, Cam got a phone call that lifted his spirits. Isaiah White personally wished to mentor Cam for 7 days as he was contemplating retirement. This meant Cam could use this chance to solidify his position on the Saviors team. Cam reached an isolated, arid island. Isaiah possessed numerous admirers there, but one follower named Marjorie assaulted Cam's vehicle, yelling, "We don't require you." Cam arrived at Isaiah's private complex. Isaiah greeted him upon arrival. Isaiah had been observing Cam's matches. Cam found this hard to accept. He informed Cam regarding the lineage of quarterbacks. He confiscated Cam's cell phone, declaring for the upcoming week, no phone, no calls, no diversions. Following that, the initial day of their instruction commenced. Cam began the training regimen. Isaiah offered him guidance on performing tasks accurately. Cam genuinely appreciated the practice sessions. Isaiah stated, "This is only the start. You have already skipped the combine, and the Saviors owners will not invest in compromised assets." He presented Cam to his physician, Marco. Marco instructed, "Remove your clothing. You are receiving a physical examination." They recorded Cam's weight, each specific measurement, and all details. Amid this process, Cam informed Isaiah that his father idolized him. "He persistently showed me the video of your injury, remarking, 'This defines a man.'" Isaiah replied, "In that case, your upbringing must have been wonderful. My own was likely more difficult than yours, but that explains my presence now." He questioned Cam, "What is your reason for doing this?" Cam answered, "For my relatives. They gave up much on my behalf." However, Isaiah stated, "That is insufficient. If your goal is to surpass the sport, you will need to discover motivation beyond external factors." Isaiah's spouse, Elsie, was also present. She was introduced to Cade. She advised Cade to enjoy the training process and subsequently departed for a journey. Concurrently, Isaiah was administering his own banked blood to himself via an IV. This method had allowed him to compete for such an extended time. Cam's muscles throbbed due to the training, leading Marco to give him an injection of Isaiah's blood, claiming it alleviates the discomfort. On the following day, Cam and Isaiah went for a run. Despite Cam being significantly more youthful, he fatigued sooner than Isaiah. He began to feel sick to his stomach. He collapsed onto the earth. At that moment, an unidentified man appeared and assaulted him. However, this event was merely Cam's delusion. Following this, in a training session, Issei questioned Cam, "Would you prefer the capacity to never fatigue or to never be injured?" Cam replied that numerous legends forfeit everything due to injury, thus he selected the option to never be injured. Just then, several free agents whom Issei had summoned showed up. They were there to assist with the training. Marco administered another injection to Cam. Cam commenced his practice drills. Issei presented a specific challenge to Cam. He was required to execute an accurate throw within 2 seconds. When Cam failed the task, the football struck a man standing nearby directly in the face with full force. Cam could not comprehend the situation. From then on, each time Cam failed to throw, that man was struck by the football. Bleeding began to emerge from his mouth. Cam began making accurate throws. Yet, if a receiver failed to catch the pass, the man was still struck. Cam started becoming furious with his receivers. Profanity was exchanged between himself and the receivers. Issei remarked, "You must not speak that way on the field." He informed Cam that he is the QB. The responsibility is going to land upon your shoulders. Every honor and all defeats rest on you, so you must control this situation. Cam concentrated entirely and executed the correct throw. However, by this time, the man's physical state had deteriorated significantly. His teeth had been shattered. Yet he rose to his feet. He was chuckling. He said to Cam, "You have much remaining to understand." Bleeding also began to seep from Cam's sutures. Marco attended to his wound and instructed him to enter the hyperbaric chamber. It is a treatment for the brain. Yet, while inside, Cam's head began to ache more intensely. His visions were not diminishing either. On the following day, he received a further injection. This day, Cam was experiencing highly aggressive gameplay. He was tackled and knocked to the ground. Blood trickled from his mouth. Issei informed him that his scouting assessments labeled him a coward. He stated, "This is not a game. This represents your entire being." Issei declared, "You are dissimilar to your father." He inquired whether Cameron Cade genuinely desired this. Cam replied, "Yes, I desire this." He was prepared to give up everything for this goal. Cam also began to compete aggressively, just like the others. He struck and broke open the head of another player. Issei observed the other player, who was moaning in agony. He grinned and remarked to Cam, "There he is." He felt pride in Cam for this action. Everybody began to chant the Savior's anthem. The wounded player continued to twist in discomfort. Cam utilized a landline to inform his brother Drew of his delusion, stating, "I am witnessing strange things." This day marked Cam's mother's birthday. He initiated a conversation with her, but as Marco approached from the rear, Cam disconnected the call. Marco explained to him that he entered this profession to cure individuals, yet he was destroying himself for this occupation. Marco was never able to visit his family. He was unable to meet them. While Marco departed, he remarked, "When a pair of men go into the Colosseum, just one exits." Externally, the woman Marjorie was observing Cam. Consequently, while in the sauna, Issei said to Cam, "I will miss the sport. I will miss the fellowship. I will miss the changing room." He stated, "I lacked a family until football came into my life." Issei offered Cam guidance, advising, "You are a decent fellow, Cam. Discover your unique path to excellence. Do not imitate me." Yet, immediately after Issei departed, the sauna's heat began to escalate. Cam shut his eyes and reclined. Marjorie was present in concealment. Her pair of associates were positioned externally. Marjorie assaulted Cam. Cam protected himself. He strangled Marjorie. He believed she was deceased. At that point, Issei had come to the location. He tossed Marjorie and shattered her skull. Issei told Cam, "You leave. I will handle this situation." Elsie said to Cam, "I understand. This appears extremely bizarre to you, but within our sphere, this is a normal Tuesday." She perceived that Cam was contemplating departure after witnessing these events. Therefore, she invited Cam to accompany her to the swimming pool. Cam accompanied her. However, upon waking the next day, Issei was positioned opposite him, holding a firearm. He inquired, "Were you intimate with her?" Cam replied, "No, I have a girlfriend." Izzy began laughing, remarking, "You are deteriorating merely from the thought of betraying her." Issei stated, "If you are excessively scared of wounding your girl's emotions, you will not be deserving of leading this franchise. Because really, all killers are indifferent." We must not be concerned about individuals' emotions being wounded. The pair went to practice shooting, yet Cam's thoughts remained fixed on that strange woman. Issei said, "What woman? I am unaware of what you are discussing." He placed a bet before Cam. "If you strike this mark, I will grant your request, but if you fail, I will claim your youth." Yet Cam replied, "No." He proposed an alternative wager. He stated, "If I fail to hit, perhaps I will allow you to remain Core B1 next season." However, Cam did not miss. He began to train with more intensity. He started exerting himself in the fitness center. On the following day, he faced a new type of training. This particular session involved confronting the media. Cam recounted to the group the final discussion he had with his father. His father expressed his pride in him, but Cam announced he was leaving football. His father felt devastated. Several months afterward, he died. This is the reason Cam has since dedicated his all to football. While he competes, he senses his father's continued presence. Following this, Elsie advised him, "I realize you wish to evoke pride in your dad, but you cannot destroy yourself for him. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Yet Cam was absolutely certain regarding football. Elsie informed Cam that the Saviors wished to present Cam with the identical offer they made to Issei 2 decades prior. She brought Cam along to a clandestine gathering attended by the Saviors' owners. Prior to arriving, she warned him that these individuals practice very odd ceremonies. Immediately upon entering the event, Cam encountered Marco. He covertly instructed him, "Flee." But further into the party, Cam met his agent. He encountered the Savior's owner. Those individuals compelled Cam to consume a crimson beverage. Immediately after drinking it, peculiar things began affecting him. He became severely disoriented. Before him, Cam discovered Marco's detached head beneath a mask. He lost consciousness upon seeing it. Elsie had personally murdered Marco. When Cam awoke, a larger quantity of Issei's blood had been administered to him intravenously. He was unable to even rise correctly. Moving on his hands and knees, he went and used the injection Marco had stored. Following that, he grabbed a trophy in his hand and proceeded directly to Issei. Issei was viewing recordings of his admirers cheering. Cam assaulted him. He realized these individuals were performing a ceremony by administering Issei's blood. Issei clarified, "In truth, it is my guide's blood." And that guide previously had his own mentor's blood. This implies these individuals transferred the blood of prior skilled players to the succeeding players so they might improve, turning into a monster. This practice had been occurring since the league's inception. Anyone who was given this blood achieved GOAT status. Yet, at any given moment, just one could exist, signifying that only Issei or Cam could remain living. Now the pair were destined to battle one another. The individual who emerged from the fight would become the GOAT. Issei and Cam began their combat. Issei was considerably more powerful than Cam. He commenced shattering his bones. Yet Cam recovered, seized a helmet, and assaulted Issei. He battered Issei fatally using that helmet. As he emerged from the location, Elsie and the Savior's owners were all present in masks, chanting a prayer. Cheerleaders were celebrating Cam's arrival. An axe was resting before Cam. Elsie instructed him to sign the agreement. However, Cam did not advance. Removing his mask, Cam's agent insisted, "Simply sign it. This is a gift." He informed him that his father gave up everything on his behalf. He was the person who enrolled Cam in this entire affair. He also desired this outcome. Cam began to laugh hysterically. He lifted the axe resting before him. He exclaimed, "Go to hell!" The agent retorted, "Do not be foolish. We have been grooming you since you were a child. We inflicted that injury upon you to get you here so we could enact this plan." The Savior's owner menaced him, stating, "I will murder your family." Recollections of his relatives began surfacing for Cam. He proceeded to slaughter everyone with his axe. Elsie collapsed and impaled herself with her own blade. Cam saturated the football field with blood. Consecutively, he murdered every person. When his agent was the final survivor, ethereal white smoke began to appear. This was likely the entity powering this hellish ceremony. It dragged the agent to the center of the field and caused him to explode. And at that point, folks, this narrative concludes at this juncture. Please share in the comments section what you thought of this breakdown. Also, remember to give the video a like and subscribe to